Alrighty, so you're back, right? I hope you're back from the last video. And now we're getting into the bad, all right? So we're gonna get into the little nuts and bolts, things that bother us about the game. And so let's jump into some of the really simple stuff. The bad. All right, so it's kind of weird to put the bad and the ugly because there are pieces of the bad and ugly that go hand in hand, and I'm going to try to just get into the bad for this video. So hopefully I can keep it short to 10 minutes or so as well. Never mind that I've got Marvel Avengers back up in the background. I will be giving you guys some content from that game as well, especially once Black Panther gets released. But let's talk about the bad from Marvel Future Revolution. The biggest part of the bad that I see right now in the game is the crafting system. I 100% believe that the crafting system inside Marvel Future Revolution is garbage. And I feel comfortable saying that because while I am maybe biased because I hate crafting systems, whenever I play games like Black Desert or any MMOs, I always tend to hate the crafting systems. But especially with a game like Marvel Future Revolution, I think the crafting system is pretty terrible. And I specifically point out the terrible nature of the crafting system with relation to sin particles. Sin particles are one of those time-gated crafting materials that you have to have in order to build your, craft inventory boxes. But here goes a part of it that really makes you feel bad about the game because it kind of veers into the ugly. But let's just call it bad for now. It's the drop rates for costume sets. So typically while you're playing a game, you feel like the game is rewarding you in some instance because they're throwing boxes at you, whether it's Omega card boxes, Alpha boxes, costume boxes, card boxes, gear boxes, core boxes, whatever they're throwing at you, you kind of typically be like, oh, yay, 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 I'm getting boxes. Until you realize the drop rates on these boxes are terrible, along with what's included inside of these drop boxes. So for instance, you will typically run into getting costume boxes, whether you're completing challenges or whether you're competing challenges or whether you're competing, upgrades, or where you're just playing through any one of your characters. You are going to typically get these costume boxes. However, once you start receiving these costume boxes and they say 1 to 3 star drop rate, or like, you can get a 1 star, 2 star, 3 star costume, but you continually to just get 1 star costumes, it feels very disingenuous. And even worse when you realize that most of these costumes don't, and even those costume boxes do not even include, yes, they don't include any of the regional outfits, which are the top tier outfits in the game. Like the ones that are available to you in a store for purchase are not the top tier ones. The top tier costumes are the ones that are part of the regional set, the Xanderth, the Sakaar, the Midgardia, the New Stark City. Those are the top tier ones. And when you're realizing, hey, guess what, I'm not getting these costumes from these boxes, you automatically start feeling bad about the drop rate on these boxes. The only way for you to get these regional sets is to craft them, which means I got to go spend time inside a region and area to farm the regional area mats. And at the same token, I've got to get these sin particles. The only way that is guaranteed for me to get these sin particles is opening up my wallet and going inside the shop and dropping some dollars on dimension boxes and hoping I'm getting them, or play the special operations mission, which guarantees me about 8 to 12 sin particles per day. That's not necessarily bad. That's probably roughly what, if I got 8 at the low end, I'm looking at about 56 sin particles per day. Right now they're talking about, they've raised it from 3 to 5 sin particles to craft 1 costume box. So you're looking at what, 10 costume boxes a week maybe, right? And that sounds good, like it would be a good thing if and only if the rates on those boxes were actually good. Meaning the rates are kind of how best to say this, the rates on the boxes are, the drop rates on the boxes are atrocious. And what I mean by that is that it might say to you and come across like you're getting maybe a 0.02% chance of getting something dropped, but it's worse than that, because you're thinking, hey, you know what, I might get something dropped from this box. But what you're not including is that every outfit that you see that's inside the game has a color palette to it, meaning there's probably about 4, 5, 6 different color palette schemes to that very same outfit set, and each of those color schemes are included as if though they are part of those costumes. It's like it's an individual costume. So when you're trying to get a Midgardia set, you're trying to get a Xander set, the chances of those dropping are phenomenally low. Like I mean, they're bad. They're really bad and low. So it's weird, right? Because you don't feel like you're actually capitalizing on getting anything from there, and it kind of dissuades you from actually wanting to, you know, actually connect to those. Because why would you? Is there a reason why you would continue to want to craft those boxes when the rates are that low? I think that they've kind of messed up in that regard in terms of having players work towards an end-game goal of getting the specific costumes, instead of just maybe having it like a loot-based drop system similar to like Destiny or Borderlands, where, you know, I can get the Midgardia set, but the fun is me getting the various drop rates attached to those sets that might change my characters. Like maybe, you know, hey, I got Hydra Empire, but it's got defense and HP, which probably works better for, you know, my Captain America than it might work for my Thor or my Doctor Strange or something like that, right? Maybe this has attack and hit rate, and that works better for my Iron Man than it does for my Black Widow. So I think they missed the boat in that, and I think that's where they should have drove it home. And I think they should have learned this lesson from Marvel Future Fight, where they have to continually release outfits for characters in order to monetize them, instead of just being like, hey, like maybe we charge people for changing these and manipulating these specific items on suits, or transmogging, you know, characters or costumes and characters and stuff like that. It's weird, but it's one of the bad parts, right? So let's talk about some of the other bad parts. The workshop, we just went into that. The workshop on a whole is pretty terrible, but then you have some other systems in the game that are highly questionable, and Crack and Null brought up one of the really good ones that kind of teed me off quite a bit, and that was the specialization rate, failure rate. So when you actually go inside your character menu, there's a specialization tree, and that specialization tree is really how you are going to distinguish your Captain America from somebody else's Captain America. Although, let's all be honest, there's not very much distinguishing that. We all end up finding a meta, and most people, 99% of the player base, is going to go with that meta. And so you're going to all have pretty similar built Captain Americas, Captain Marvels, and, you know, Doctor Strange and so forth flying around on a map. But the specialization has a feature in it where you can have a chance of failing. So like, let's say there's 7 levels in unlocking a specific trait, passive trait or active trait. And if you want to know what those is, take a look back at some of my other videos, right? So like, let's say for instance I did that and I went inside there. Well, here goes the problem, right? When you're inside the game, you have to go and play a raid in order to get these convergiums, radiance, flawless, and so forth like that. You've got to go play a raid either at the challenge level, the extreme level, or the ultimate level, and they take time. All right, they do take time. And even worse is that when you die inside one of these raids, guess what? It requires crystals in order for you to revive. And let's say you want to accelerate the process in which you get these materials. You know what you have to do? You have to actually pay crystals to replay those missions. You get about 3 per day, whether that's blitz or whether that's inside the raid, right? So I'm paying crystals to accelerate my rate. I'm also paying crystals if I die inside the event. So I'm paying cash to do these things. That's the premium currency. And then when I go over here inside my character and I go to use those items that I've paid money for, maybe to accelerate or not, I have a failure rate chance that I could actually fail upgrading. Well, who the hell wants to see that? So one of the things that Crack and Null mentioned was a pity system. I'm going to go against what he said here because I don't think there should be a pity system. I don't think there should be a failure rate system inside something so time consuming and something that you may be paying for. It seems disrespectful to the player in terms of having them spend, you know, 20-30 minutes to get a raid correct, or, you know, paying crystals to do it, and then you go inside the system and you have a failure rate. I earned those materials. I should be able to use those materials here to natively raise the level of my character, and it shouldn't fail. There's no random choice to this, you know what I mean? So it's one of the weird parts about that. So there we go. So the drop rates, the gear drop rates, or the gear acquisition rates, as Kraken Noel brings up, and the rate failures, those shouldn't exist inside the game. The gear acquisition is absolutely terrible. I think that he brought it out. It would take you almost 2 years to acquire the amount of 6-star gear you needed to if you weren't a pay-to-play player, which is just terrible. Well, not 2 years, but it was like, I think he said 10 months or something like that. But that's ridiculous. I should not have to take 10 months to get a 6-star set of gear. That's just insane. Who sat down and did the numbers on this? And I don't get it. But so those are the bad things for the game that, as I see them, I don't like them. I don't think they need a pity system. I think they need to take it away completely. I think they need to improve the gear acquisition rates and the drop rates in general, which kind of segues us into the last part of this video, which is the ugly. So stick around for that, and yeah, you'll be surprised. All right.